They applauded when my father joked that I had no husband, no children, and no degree. They didn't applaud when I paid for the vineyard. They didn't raise a glass when I wired the money for the caterer, the band, or the dress that made them gasp when Tessa walked down the aisle. And yet, there they were, laughing as if I were the punchline, not the one who signed the checks for the wine they sipped. My name is Laurel Knox. I'm 34. I built my logistics firm from the ground up. And for the last 10 years, I've held another title, the family's emotional accountant, dependable, responsible, convenient. It started small, gas money for my younger brother Brandon, a bit for a car repair, then it was dad's surgery, mom's dental work, tuition bills, rent, and countless just to get us through requests. And me? I said yes, over and over, because that's what good daughters do. We say yes, we adjust, we carry the weight with a polite smile, we're proud of our independence, until it turns into the justification for everyone else's dependence. I thought that if I kept showing up, they would finally see me, not just my money, but me. But the truth is, the moment I started saying yes with my wallet, they stopped seeing Laurel altogether. They didn't notice when I skipped college to start my business. They didn't come to my office opening. They never asked what I wanted, only what I could give. In the beginning, I didn't mind. I liked being useful. I thought I was helping the people I loved. But the more I gave, the more invisible I became. By the time the wedding arrived, I wasn't a daughter or a sister anymore. I was just the sponsor. It started with one phone call, just the venue. Mom had said, they found a gorgeous vineyard upstate. Laurel, it would mean the world if you helped. I said yes. Then came the photographer, the florist, the band's deposit. Tessa's dream dress was over budget. Brandon's suit needed to look sharp, as Mom said. Each ask was wrapped in soft guilt, no yelling, no desperation, just that gentle pause, you can, so you should. And I could, so I did. By week 3, I was in too deep to stop. The wedding planners called me directly. I was coordinating deliveries and finalizing vendor contracts between conference calls for my company. I was the maid of honor without a dress, the best man without a speech. And still, I told myself it was fine, their day mattered more. But eventually, I wondered, whose day was this, really? As the guest list ballooned past 200 and signature cocktails were chosen without my input, I caught myself running cost breakdowns during dinner. $12, $50 per champagne flute, $275 per chair. By the time they hired a string quartet, I'd stopped asking the price, because no one was asking if I was okay. The worst part wasn't the money. It was the silence, the complete erasure. I wasn't mentioned in planning emails, in the programs, not even in the thank you cards Tessa and Brandon sent early. They thanked God. They thanked each other. They thanked everyone who made this day possible. I guess I was something else. But by then, I had already paid for the sunset. The ceremony began at 5. Guests arrived in linen and lace, laughing under fairy lights strung between oak trees. The vineyard glowed, every seat adorned with a glass dome candle, a harpist playing something delicate by the fountain. I stood by the catering tent, taking a call about missing linens. When I finally reached the seating area, my place card was at the back, table 12, beside the photographer's assistant and a distant cousin who kept asking what I actually did, as if she wasn't drinking the wine I'd paid for. I glanced at the program, Brandon Tessa, a love worth toasting. Inside, order of service, lyrics, a Corinthians verse. Last page, with gratitude to everyone who made this day possible. Mom and Dad. Uncle Ray for the lights. Tessa's best friend for the handmade table numbers. My name wasn't there. I never asked for a spotlight, I didn't want it. But to be unseen at all, that was something else. When Tessa caught my eye across the garden, she smiled like everything was perfect, and maybe for her, it was. The string quartet began Can't Help Falling in Love. Brandon stood beneath the arbor in a custom suit I paid for, looking serene, untouched by all the chaos I'd managed behind the scenes. I took my seat, poured a glass of wine from the bottle I funded, and waited for one small moment, one word, one nod. It never came. Instead, something else did. Dad stepped up to the mic, already tipsy. He held it like a cigar, grinned at the guests, and then looked right at me. We always knew Brandon would find someone special, he began, scotch in hand. He's got the charm, the looks, and now, finally, a wife. Laughter. Brandon beamed. Tessa lowered her head, shy and glowing. Dad paused, looked at me. As for Laurel, he let the pause hang, heavy and sharp. No husband, no kids, no degree. He chuckled, turned to the guests, then back to me. But hey, at least she picks up the check. The laughter was instant and loud, not polite, not hesitant, real, roaring laughter. Brandon laughed. Tessa laughed. Mom covered her mouth like it was harmless fun. I didn't laugh. I didn't move. I just sat there, still as the candlelight, wine glass in hand. It wasn't anger that arrived first. It was something older and colder, sharp and precise, like a blade I'd felt before in small cuts, when they forgot my birthday but celebrated Brandon's dog's adoption day, when they said I was too focused, too independent, when they insisted, she's fine, she doesn't need anything. Maybe they thought that meant I didn't feel anything either. I stood, no scrape of my chair, no dramatic stomp. I simply walked to the mic. Dad tried to pass it to me with that same sloppy grin, like I was about to join the joke. I didn't look at him, I looked at them, the guests, the lights, my family, and spoke, soft and steady. He's right. Silence. I'm not married, I don't have kids, I never finished college, but I do have something none of you seem to value, a spine, and a memory. I turned to Brandon and Tessa. You know that $96,000 wedding gift, the one that made all of this possible? I smiled, calm, glacial. Forget it. I didn't wait for a reaction, no pause for gasps or applause. I handed the mic to the DJ, turned, and walked away. Behind me, the music didn't resume. Someone gasped. I think my mother called my name, not angry, not pleading, just surprised, like she hadn't seen this coming. And maybe she hadn't. That stunned me most. They truly didn't think they were doing anything wrong. To them, I was fulfilling a role, the reliable daughter, the one who could afford to stay quiet. But I was done. I didn't go home that night. I hadn't planned to. 3 days earlier, I'd booked a suite in a small downtown hotel, corner room, tall windows, quiet. I dropped my purse, slipped off my heels, and poured a glass of water. I should have felt powerful. Instead, I felt hollow, like I'd been slowly drained for years, and tonight was the first time I stopped pretending I wasn't empty. I opened my laptop, logged into the shared wedding expense account, the one I set up, under my name. Brandon and Tessa were only authorized users. Why? Because I'd learned the hard way that generosity without proof becomes a family legend, rewritten and reshaped to suit whoever's telling it. The dress? My charge. The venue deposit? Mine. Every bouquet, every candle, every delicate gold-rimmed plate? All me. What no one knew, because no one bothered to ask, was that I didn't just fund the account, I controlled it. Every payout, every transfer, every final balance required my approval, and I hadn't cleared the final batch yet. I hovered over the dashboard, clicked, pause all outgoing payments. The screen blinked once, confirmed, all transactions frozen. If I was just a checkbook to them, this was me closing it. At 6:13 a.m., my phone buzzed. Mom, Laurel, the screen read. I let it ring twice, then answered. Her voice sounded brittle, the kind you hear after tears or too much rehearsal. Where are you? I stayed silent. Well, Brandon said something happened. He said you made a scene. I looked out the window, morning light crawling over the city. No, I said calmly, Dad made a scene, I just responded. She exhaled slowly, carefully. You know how he is, he didn't mean it, he was joking. Don't call me sweetie. A pause. Okay, she said, her tone shifting, testing. Look, tensions were high, we can talk. Brandon's hurt, Tessa's upset, I'm not your bank anymore. Silence, real, weighted silence. I waited for the guilt, the pleading, the pivot to remind me how much they needed me. It didn't come, not yet. Instead, she asked, soft, are you really going to leave your brother stranded, on his wedding day? I smiled, not kindly. I already paid for the champagne, I said, seems like a fitting toast. And I hung up. By noon, the text started. Tessa, hey Laurel, can we talk? I didn't know he was going to say that. I'm so sorry. Then Brandon, we need you. That one made me laugh. They didn't need me when they raised their glasses. Didn't need me when they booked the honeymoon suite in Santorini. Didn't need me when they left my name off the seating chart. But now, suddenly, I was essential. At 4:17 p.m., I got the email. Subject, urgent, wedding balance outstanding. The venue coordinator had tried to process the final charges. The card failed. She asked if I had changed banks. She gave me 48 hours before legal escalation. That's when I realized Brandon hadn't come to apologize. He came to buy time. They had chosen the house before the wedding, not Brandon and Tessa, my parents. Over dinner a month earlier, Dad had mentioned it so casually, just the three of us, grilled salmon on paper plates in their backyard. "We're thinking," he said, "of gifting the house to Brandon and Tessa, start them off right." I remember putting my fork down. "Why would you do that?" I asked, steady. Mom chimed in, buttering a roll. "Well, Brandon's starting his life. He needs something solid. You always said you didn't want the house." That's when I realized they truly believed it wasn't mine. "That's because I own it," I said quietly. They waved me off like I was fussing over small details. "Semantics," Dad muttered, "it's all family." I should have stopped it then, drawn the line clearly, in ink instead of implication. But some part of me, some small, loyal fragment, thought it was just dinner talk. It wasn't. While I organized the wedding, my parents had started transfer paperwork behind my back. They didn't ask, didn't mention it, just assumed I'd fall in line, like always. But this time, I wasn't just paying, I had receipts. 3 years ago, after Dad's heart scare and Mom's hip surgery, they said the house was too big, too much to maintain, mortgage overdue, utilities high, too far from the hospital. So I stepped in, bought the house outright, moved it into a managed trust, let them live there rent-free under one condition: no major changes without my written approval. I called Miranda, my lawyer, sharp, fast, and allergic to family manipulation. She sent over a 2-page document the next morning. It laid everything out in legal clarity. Any unauthorized transfer of the house would be void and potentially fraudulent. I forwarded it to my parents. No message, just the PDF. 38 minutes later, my phone rang. "You think you're clever?" Dad growled. "No," I said, "you did that last night." It was nearly 10 p.m. when the knock came, not frantic, not hesitant, just 3 firm knocks. I was halfway through a documentary, tea in hand, phone on silent. I paused the screen and waited. In this building, no one knocked unannounced, not at that hour. 3 more knocks. I stood slowly, set my cup down, and walked to the peephole. Brandon, his suit jacket was wrinkled, probably the same one from the wedding, no tie, hair a mess, eyes red, not from tears, but from exhaustion and panic. In his hand, a thick folder. I didn't open the door. He leaned toward it, voice low and raw. 5 minutes, please." I said nothing. "I messed up," he continued. "I know I did. I thought if I fixed the honeymoon stuff or talked to Dad, maybe it would all blow over." He let out a small, flat laugh. "Now everything's falling apart. Mom's having dizzy spells. Tessa's at her parents'. I tried selling the sound system to cover rent, but turns out we never even owned it." He paused, voice softer, almost like when we were kids and he'd broken something precious. "I know I don't deserve anything from you, but I wanted you to see this." He held up the folder. "It's everything. The wedding breakdown. What was yours, what wasn't, even gym charges. There's a letter too. I didn't want you to think I never cared." Still, I didn't move. He shifted again. "I looked up to you. I still do. I just got used to everyone acting like your success didn't count because you didn't have a ring or a degree, but you built something real, Laurel." There was a pause. "Please, just read it." Finally, I spoke. "Leave the folder." He didn't argue. He slid it under the door. Later, when I opened it, the hallway was empty. The folder sat there like a white flag. Inside, spreadsheets, receipts, sticky notes scribbled with explanations. Dad insisted. "Ava thought it was covered. My fault. Forgot to thank her." At the back, a single sheet of lined paper, not printed, not polished, just a letter, honest, rough, almost human. He admitted to jealousy, entitlement, to going along because it was easier than standing up. It felt real. But then my inbox pinged, an email from the venue. Subject, escalation, non-payment. Brandon had tried to use one of the frozen cards. They wanted to confirm authorization. That's when I knew he hadn't come to apologize. He came to stall. I stared at the email, let it sit, then I opened the financial dashboard. Auto payments, mom's pharmacy, dad's truck insurance, Brandon's business card, Ava's student loan, the family's joint phone plan. I hovered over each, paused, then, one by one, disable. Click, click, click. No drama, no announcements, just off. I didn't need revenge, I needed quiet. For years, my phone buzzed daily with requests disguised as updates. Now, silence. Not one message asking if I was okay, only if I was available. Now, I wasn't. They didn't deserve a second version of me simply because the first finally spoke. That night, I poured more tea, let the silence spread, soft, not triumphant, but real. I knew it wouldn't last, because when the giving stops, that's when the knocking begins. 3 days of silence, then, the first voicemail. Mom, tearful, drawn out. You're tearing us apart, she whispered. This isn't what family does. She didn't say, I'm sorry, she didn't say, we were wrong, only that I was the one breaking something. Dad didn't call, he texted. You'll regret this someday. I didn't reply, I printed it, taped it inside the folder Brandon left, under the spreadsheet labeled Laurel's contributions. Fitting, a relic of how they saw me, not as family, but as a function. The calls kept coming, Ava, Tessa's parents, a number I didn't recognize, Jason's new lawyer. Then, a letter to my office. Request to renegotiate repayment terms. Miranda, my lawyer, replied in one line. Settlement requires full admission of responsibility and public withdrawal of all prior family claims of financial contribution. What came back? Thin threats, insults, blame. That told me everything. They weren't sorry, they were scrambling. When a ship starts sinking, some people search for lifeboats, others look for someone to blame. And me? I wasn't on the ship anymore. I'd spent 10 years bailing it out with a smile while they partied on deck. The moment I put down the bucket, they screamed, she let us drown. I didn't argue, didn't explain, just walked away. 6 months passed, the gym closed, Brandon sold his car, Ava moved back with her parents, Mom took a part-time job at a craft store, Dad stopped texting. They still live in the house, barely, but it's no longer theirs to give away. And me? I travel, I read, I laugh at dumb movies. Sometimes I think about that wedding, the string quartet, the dress I paid for, the moment they laughed, not with me, at me. And I remind myself, that laughter was real. So this silence? It gets to be real too. I'm not asking for sympathy or stories, just one sign you've been there too. That moment when silence felt louder than an apology, when leaving wasn't rage, just clarity. If you've ever held your breath through a laugh that wasn't yours, leave a dot.